Two National Guard members from West Virginia were in critical condition Wednesday after a gunman opened fire on them in an apparent targeted shooting near the White House, officials said. In an address Wednesday night, President Donald Trump called the shooting an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror, adding, "It was a crime against our entire nation." Trump, citing information from the Department of Homeland Security, said the suspect entered the U.S. from Afghanistan in September 2021 and criticized the prior administration of President Joe Biden. Trump said the shooting underscores the single greatest national security threat facing our nation, saying the U.S. must now re-examine every single alien from Afghanistan who has entered our country under Biden, and we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country. Trump did not name the suspect. However, multiple law enforcement sources familiar with the investigation identified him to ABC News as 29-year-old Ramanullah Lakhanwal. Lakhanwal applied for asylum in 2024 and was granted asylum in April 2025 under the Trump administration, according to three law enforcement sources. In a post on social media shortly after Trump's remarks, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services announced the processing of all immigration requests relating to Afghan nationals is stopped indefinitely pending further review of security and vetting protocols. Several sources told ABC News that the FBI is investigating the shooting as a potential act of international terrorism, suggesting authorities are trying to determine if it may have been inspired by an international terrorist organization. Law enforcement officials and the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. are expected to provide more information about the suspect on Thursday. The Guard members who were shot are a woman and man, according to a law enforcement official briefed on the situation, and were being treated at local hospitals. The gunfire broke out around 2:15 p.m. Wednesday when the unidentified suspect rounded a corner near the Farragut West Metro Station in Washington, D.C., raised his arm with the weapon and opened fire. MPD Executive Assistant Chief Jeffrey Carroll said, "It appears to be a lone gunman that raised a firearm and ambushed these members of the National Guard," he said. Other National Guard members quickly responded to the shooting and helped subdue the suspected shooter, Carroll said. They heard the gunfire and they actually were able to intervene and to hold down the suspect after he had been shot on the ground, Carroll said of the responding Guard members. The suspected shooter was also wounded by gunfire and taken to the hospital in critical condition. At an earlier news conference, Carroll told reporters it was not immediately clear who shot the suspect. However, in a statement, Major General Tim Seward, Adjutant General of the West Virginia National Guard, credited swift action taken by the courageous fellow West Virginia National Guardsmen who quickly engaged and neutralized the assailant, saving lives. A motive has not been determined, however. Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser said the individual appeared to target the Guard members. Multiple law enforcement agencies, including U.S. Marshals, ATF, and the FBI, responded to the shooting. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said her agency was working with local authorities to gather more information. The White House was briefly put on lockdown, but that the order was later lifted about 5 p.m. Trump is currently in Florida, where he is spending Thanksgiving at his Mar-a-Lago club. The animal that shot the two National Guardsmen, with both being critically wounded and now in two separate hospitals, is also severely wounded, but regardless will pay a very steep price, Trump wrote on his social media platform on Wednesday afternoon. God bless our great National Guard and all of our military and law enforcement. These are truly great people. I, as President of the United States, and everyone associated with the office of the presidency, am with you. The National Guard was deployed to the nation's capital as part of President Trump's federal takeover of the city and crime crackdown in August. According to the most recent update, there were 2,188 Guard personnel assigned to D.C. On Tuesday, during the traditional turkey pardoning at the White House, Trump touted his administration's takeover of D.C. streets. He said it was one of our most unsafe places anywhere in the United States. It is now considered a totally safe city. You could walk down any street in Washington and you're going to be just fine. And I want to thank the National Guard. I want to thank you for the job you've done here is incredible, Trump said at the event. Vice President J.D. Vance addressed the shooting on Wednesday as he spoke to troops at Fort Campbell in Kentucky, where he was spending the day serving meals to soldiers and their families ahead of Thanksgiving. We're still learning everything. We still don't know the motive, Vance said. It's a somber reminder that soldiers, whether they're active duty reserve or National Guard, our soldiers are the sword and the shield of the United States of America, the vice president said. And as a person who goes into work every single day in that building and knows that there are a lot of people who wear the uniform of the United States Army, let me just say very personally, thank them for what they're doing. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth posted video of himself speaking about the shooting on his X account. He called it a cowardly, dastardly act and said President Trump had asked him to send another 500 National Guardsmen into D.C. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful. The drop in crime has been historic. The increase in safety and security has been historic. But if criminals want to conduct things like this, violence against America's best, we will never back down, he said. General Stephen Nordhaus, chief of the National Guard Bureau, and senior enlisted advisor John Raines are heading to D.C. to be with the troops there. We are devastated by this senseless act of violence, Nordhaus said in a video statement.